The stage is set for the 2020 presidential election. President Trump and Joseph Biden have both accepted their party's nominations. Both men and their respective running mates have a packed schedule moving forward, and the campaign trail is expected to really heat up as summer comes to an end. Joining me now to talk more about this is national reporter and producer for Yahoo News, Marquise Francis. Marquise, it's good to be with you today. So during the Republican National Convention, President Trump held his nomination acceptance speech on the White House South Lawn. That, of course, sparked a lot of controversy by blurring the line between the campaign trail and government. Can we expect to see more of these types of events from the president this fall?
Yeah, I think absolutely. If you look at the past, basically 4 years, President Trump has really done what President Trump wants to do. And when you speak about having that RNC on the White House lawn, it goes everything against the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal employees from engaging in political activity inside federal buildings or while on duty. And while President Trump and VP Mike Pence are exempt from this, you had several federal employees like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, and others participate. So this goes against everything, the actual law. And now it's really on the powers that be if they're actually going to do something about it. And
Marquise, I'm wondering if you can explain to folks who don't understand why this is such a big deal, why some people are really upset about blurring these lines.
Yeah, I think it really just goes through to the lawlessness they feel as though President Trump has, done over the past 4 years. If the president is not following laws now, what's to say he's going to step out of office if the election comes and he doesn't win come November 3rd. So, if there's laws in place, we're expected, everyone across the country, including the president, to actually follow these laws. So if they're not following such things as not doing things on the White House property that are quite illegal, what's to say come November, the president's going to step down if things don't go his way? And we've seen things like the whole, Trump administration tried to question the legitimacy of mail-in voting and such things. And, we'll just see what happens on November 3rd.
So Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have seen support from prominent former Republican officials and first-time campaign donors. What does that tell you about their efforts to reach beyond just their Democratic base?
Absolutely. I mean, we can look back at the DNC, and we saw several Republicans, including former Ohio Governor John Kasich and John McCain's widow, speaking because they know the need to reach across the aisle. We saw in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by over 3 million votes, but that did not matter because President Trump ended up winning the Electoral College vote. So, obviously, Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris as his VP mate and trying to hopefully attract more Black voters, but there needs to be more. Kamala Harris' parents are both immigrants, reaching across to hopefully tap into a lot of immigrant support, reaching across and trying to get more Hispanic voters involved and all the other voters who don't see themselves possibly represented in the Republican Party. When you look at President Trump and VP Mike Pence, these are two older white men who don't necessarily relate to a lot more of what the country is. So I think for VP Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they have a lot in front of them. And the fact that, Kamala Harris is an HBCU grad, it speaks well to really getting at that Black base, but it's really what else can they get to?
Well, we know that coronavirus and the handling of the pandemic is going to be one of the major issues that will propel people either to cast their votes in one direction or another, or not cast their votes at all. So what role do you think the pandemic is going to play in the election come November?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen literally both parties do the complete opposite. Whereas the DNC was, for the most part, almost all virtual outside of a few speeches, we saw, President Trump have that huge, almost like a campaign rally the last night of the RNC on the White House lawn. We saw about 1,000 to 1,500 people packed onto that lawn, many not wearing face masks. And I think we're going to see much of the same as we continue in the road up to November. We see Joe Biden switching a lot of virtual. He's hitting different states and having these virtual campaign rallies. And President Trump, after what many saw as a disaster in Tulsa, with instead of going with these large crowds where people aren't coming out in large numbers, switching his strategy to more in-person, more intimate settings outside at airplane hangars and whatnot. Still not really following those social distance guidelines that a lot of medical experts are saying, but still holding these in-person gatherings. Now, I do believe that there will be more in-person gatherings just for both President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden in the lead up to November. They just want to get in front of as many people as possible. But I also mentioned, how President Trump and the entire Trump administration has really tried to call into question this whole mail-in voting, which has no legitimacy. There's no truth to it. Mail-in voting is a secure way to vote. But we're also seeing how politics is spreading into sports, where the NBA teams are now putting pressure on owners to step up, especially when it comes to this November 3rd election. So many NBA teams have now said they're going to open up their NBA arena doors to be an official polling place come November. And I think this will have large implications. We saw all across the country, particularly in places like Georgia, where folks stood in line for hours just to cast their ballot just a few weeks ago. So this is something that a lot of people don't want to happen come November. And if you have somewhere like where the Atlanta Hawks play, their stadium open, it'll go a long way in making sure that people are able to cast their ballot, not only in person, but also make sure they can cast their ballot through the mail.
All right. Marquise Francis, thank you.
Thank you.